Hi everyone, welcome to my session. So in this session, we are going to discuss about one of the topic which is called Azure Bastion. So you can call it Azure Bastion or you can also pronounce this as Azure Bastion services. So both are fine. So let's talk about this service. So let me open one of the document. See, so Azure Bastion, when I talk about this topic, so this is one of the PaaS service in Azure. So far we have discussed about virtual machine. So virtual machine is one of the infrastructure as a service. And when I say Azure Bastion, so this is one of the PaaS service in Azure, which is like a platform as a service. So what does this service do? So if you just go to the official document, because I always encourage people to follow the official documentation so that they can have very depth fundamental clarity. So when you go to the official documentation, you can see it is a fully managed PaaS service that you can provision to securely connect to your virtual machines via private IP addresses. So what does it mean? So far, what were you doing when you want to take the remote of any of the VM? Let's say there is one VM which is hosted on Azure. It can be Windows, it can be Linux. Whenever you want to take the remote of the VM, so far what we have studied, you need to have one of the public IP on the VM. This is what we need. So from day one, we used to attach one of the public IP on the VM, and with the help of that public IP, we used to take the remote. So if it is Windows, the protocol to take the remote is RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol, which runs on port number 3389. And if it is running Linux operating system, so the protocol which is used to take the remote is SSH on port number 22. So far this practice were being followed. But the thing is, when you are using the public IPs on the VM, so you are exposing your VM to the open internet. You are exposing your virtual machine to the public network, because attaching the public IP simply means you are now connected to the public network. And when you are connected to the public network, so there are risk. There is cyber risk. Your VM can be easily penetrated, it can be easily attacked, and if any critical workload is running inside the VM, so it can lead to serious attacks. So it is not recommended to generally use the public IPs on the VM in the production scenario. So when you will be working in the companies in the production scenarios, you will not see the public IPs on the VMs. So they will not follow such practice. So Azure Bastion or Azure Bastion is one of the service which will allow you to connect with your virtual machine, whether it is Windows, whether it is Linux, using without using the public IPs on the VM. So if you are using the Azure Bastion services, you don't have to attach the public IPs on the virtual machine. Virtual machines can have the private IPs, and Azure Bastion service will allow you to take the remote of your servers without having the public IPs on it. So how does it work? So if you look at it architecture, let me just open one of the document. See, if you look at the architecture, so how the Azure Bastion is going to work, let's suppose these three are your virtual machines. These three are the VMs, and two of them are based on Windows, and one is based on Linux. So as I told you, it can be Windows, it can be Linux. Port numbers are going to be different. For Windows, it works on RDP, and for Linux it works on SSH. Now how the Bastion is going to work? So when you will deploy the Bastion, so as I mentioned, Bastion is a PaaS service, so it will be deployed as a separate resource in Azure. Once you will deploy it, it will be deployed as a separate resource in Azure. And what will happen? So Bastion is going to create its own platform. It is going to create its own platform. And it will give you its own interface. It will be connected to a network. It will give you its own interface. And you as a user, you are the user whenever you want to take the remote of any of the VM. Let's say I want to take the remote of this particular virtual machine. So earlier I used to enter the public IP of this VM into the MSTSC screen or into extra putty screen. This is what we were doing. Now what we will do, because there is no public IP on the VM, so we as a user will send the request to the Azure Bastion interface. So Azure Bastion interface will receive my request for the remote access now. And that will happen using the TLS, Transport Layer Security Protocol. So user will send the request directly to the Bastion, not to the VMs. So once the request is received on the Bastion, now the Bastion is going to validate the request of the user, and then it will take the remote of that server into its interface. So if the user is asking for this particular machine's remote, so when the user will send the request to the Bastion host, now the Bastion will check the request and it will now take the remote of that particular VM into its own screen, into its own interface. And then the user will be able to take the remote, or you can say when the user will be able to access the VM from the interface of the Bastion. So in this way, the user is not directly getting connected to the VM. User does not have any direct connection to the VM. User will be having the connection directly to the Bastion host. And the VM interface is actually coming to the Bastion, not to the user. So from the Bastion screen, the user is able to use that particular VM. This is how it works. So one more thing about the Bastion is it will allow you to take the remote using the browser only. So you cannot take the remote on the separate consoles like you did in MSTSC or SSH. The remote will always come on the browser screen. So whether it is Google Chrome, whether it is Mozilla Firefox or Microsoft Edge, the remote will be provided on the browser. It will be again the secure and seamless connection because the VMs are coming through the private IP on the Bastion interface, and user is not directly attached with the VM. User have the communication to the Bastion. So this Bastion will be connected to the internet. It will have the access to the internet so that users can send the request from the outside network as well. So Bastion will have the access to the public internet, and we can define the access restrictions over here. It will be connected to a dedicated subnet with the name of Azure Bastion subnet. So it requires a dedicated subnet and it will be the part of a virtual network. So in my VNet, let's say if I have 20 virtual machines and if they all are connected to one network, let's say VNet 01. So VNet we will discuss in future. It is one of the next topic that we are going to discuss. VNet, simply you can understand it's like a switch right now. So if I have 20 VMs running and they are connected to one of the network, one of the VNet, so Bastion is going to attach with this particular VNet and it will be connected to a separate network range, which is called subnet here, separate address range. And whenever the user is going to ask for the remote, so as we know, Bastion will receive that request. User will have to send the request to the Bastion, and then Bastion will take the remote on its screen from the backend. So if it is Windows, the RDP is going to work. If it is Linux, SSH is going to work. So this is how the architecture works. So if someone, let's say, attacks on the Bastion surface, so it is not going to impact my virtual machine because they are in the private network. They are still in the private zone, and Bastion is only connected to the public zone. So we can implement a lot of securities over here. So we don't have to worry about separate VM security. We can tightly secure the Bastion, and because all the VMs are already in the private network, so we don't have to worry about separate securities of the VM. Let's say we have 100 VMs, so we don't have to worry about 100 VMs network rules or port rules. We can let them in the private network and we can only worry about the Bastion security. So Bastion is already very much secure because of the parameter network access. So TLS is going to establish a secure connectivity from the user to Bastion. So this is what you need to know. So TLS is a protocol which stands for Transport Layer Security. Now, if you go to the official documentation, so you will understand more about it. So as I mentioned, it is a PaaS service, and it will allow you to connect to the VMs using the private IPs. So we don't require any public IPs on the VM. And through the TLS, the user will request via the Azure portal to the Bastion using the protocol, and accordingly they will get the remote. So there is no requirement of the public IP, no special agent, no special software, because the remote will be provided on the browser screen, as I told you. So these are some of the benefits that you can go through with, and these are some of the SKUs. Like we have three SKUs over here. SKU basically means the configuration. If you are using the Bastion, so what kind of configuration you can get in the Bastion, or what kind of configuration types you can get in the Bastion. So we have basic, we have standard, we have premium. So these are some of the differences. What kind of features will be available, what will not be available. So you can just go through with all of these. And if I talk about the architecture, so this is what we discussed. So you should know the architecture. And when it comes to the pricing, so Bastion works on hourly basis. So the pricing of the Bastion will be on hourly basis, and you can use the pricing calculator to check the price of it. It is not too much costly, but if you are using it, let's say for 20 minutes, still you will be charged for 1 hour, because this service works on hourly basis. So you should be knowing these differences also. So main point that you need to know is what kind of service the Bastion is, what kind of problem it is solving, so what kind of security it is going to provide you, how it will be secure. So these things we have already discussed, how the architecture looks like, so that we discussed. So now let's move to the practical part of it and let's see how does it work. So I will go to my Azure portal, and before this, what I need to do, I am going to deploy one of the virtual machine so that we can make it the part of Bastion. So I will quickly go and create one of the VM. So just click on virtual machine. You already know the process to create the VM, so I will not repeat or I will not stress it again. Just go to the virtual machine, and here I will just fill up the details. So I will create a new resource group because I don't have, and the VM name I will give is VM-01. It will be deployed in the UK South region, and it will be independent VM. Operating system can be anything. It can be Windows, it can be Linux. So this time I am going to use Windows Server 2019. And in terms of configuration, I will go with, let's say, this one is fine. So I will go with 2 cores of CPU and 8 GB of RAM. And here, let's set up the administrator account. So you are already aware about this process. So here I will enable the RDP because it is Windows. So if someone wants to take the remote, RDP has to be enabled. Now click on next. If you want to attach any disk, you can, otherwise leave it. So next, in the networking, I will not make any changes because we have not studied about the networking section specifically. So just click on next. Next. And finally, I will just go to review plus create. So I will not add any tags as well. And let's wait for the deployment of this VM to happen. Then we will set up the Bastion. So I will just quickly click on create, and let's wait. So now we can see this VM has been deployed. So I will just go to this VM. So here we have the VM and it has got one of the public IP. So during the deployment, I have not removed the public IP. I just left it as it is. So if you just go to the VM using this public IP, you can take the remote now. So with the normal process as we did, you can just take the remote. You can just download one of the RDP file and it will happen. So if you just traditionally click on connect and if you download the RDP file, so the remote will come. So let me open it, connect, and if you enter the password of the VM, so the remote access will be with you. So this all things are happening using the public IP now. See, so now you can see the remote connection is completed and on the top you can see it is through the public IP. So this is where the security is going to be lack. So I don't want to use the public IP on the VM. And there are multiple ways. If you want to take the remote of the VM using the without using the public IP, there are multiple methods. Like we will discuss all of the methods in future topics. So one of the method is, let's say, ways to take remote without public IP on the VMs. So one of the method is Azure Bastion. You can use this one. So today we are going to learn about this topic. We will see the implementation. And in future, there will be firewall rules. You can define the rules in the firewall and you can take the remote. You can also implement site to site and point to site network or connection. So we will also see this topic in the future. Using this also, you can take the remote. Using the Azure load balancer also you can take the remote. So we have multiple methods and we are going to see all these options in the future. For now, let's focus on the Bastion. So we have the remote of this server. Now let me disconnect this. I just wanted to show you that remote is coming over the public IP. Now let me remove this public IP from this VM because we don't need it. So what you can do, you can just click on this public IP here from the connect. Just click on it and it will take you to the public IP address console. From here, you can see this public IP is associated to this network interface and it is connected to the virtual machine VM01. So this public IP is currently connected with VM01 and we can simply click on disassociate, then yes. Now it will be removed from the server. So let's wait for the removal to be completed. Now it is done. So there is no public IP on the VM. If you just refresh, so you will see this has been removed. So let me refresh the browser. See, now this public IP is free. So if it is not in use, you can still click on delete and this will get deleted permanently from the portal. So I have deleted the public IP now, and you cannot delete the public IP if it is attached to a VM. This is also one of the scenario based thing. So you always have to disassociate the public IP if it is attached with any resource, then you can perform the deletion. So if the public IP is connected with any of the VM, the deletion is not possible directly. So this IP has been deleted now, and if you go to the VM, so there is no public IP now. So there is no public IP here. You can see it is blank, but there is one private IP. And if you try to take the remote now, if you just go to the connect, so you will notice that private IP is coming. And from here, if you will try to download the RDP file, and if you try to take the remote, so that will not be possible because there is no public IP attached on the VM. So you will see the failure. So let's wait for the error message. See, this is the error message. So you cannot connect now. Now let's set up the Bastion. So I have one virtual machine. There can be multiple virtual machines here. What you need to do for setting up the Bastion, you can simply just go to the search box of the Azure, and from here you can search about Azure Bastion services. So here I will simply type Bastion, and you can see this option is coming. So you can just click on the Bastion, and from here you can create the Bastion interface. Otherwise, you can go to your virtual machine as well, and from here you can see when you go to the VM. Let me show you from the beginning. So when you go to the VM, on the left side under the Connect console, there is one option of Bastion. So you can click from here as well. It will take you to the same console which I opened in another tab. Otherwise, you can go from the direct option as well. So that's your choice. It will be same process. So if you go to the Bastion, here you can see there are two options. Here if you go to the VM, there are two options. It is going to create a Bastion, and this is the description, and there will be two options to create it. One is automatic, another one is manual. So both are same, both are fine. If you go with the automatic option, so what it is going to do, it is going to deploy the Bastion host, and as I mentioned, it requires a dedicated subnet. The Bastion requires a dedicated subnet. So if you will deploy it automatically, you don't have to create a dedicated subnet. But if you will set it, if you are going to set it up manually, so you have to define the dedicated subnet as well. So you have to define all the settings manually. You need to select your virtual network, you have to select your subnet, and accordingly you have to choose your configuration. And if you go with the deploy option, which is automatic option, so everything will be taken care automatically. So we will understand the manual option as well in the future topics when we will start the networking. But for now, let's focus on the automatic. So this is the summary. There will be name of the Bastion, which is going to be created automatically. This will be the name. This will be the part of this resource group, and it will get connected to this network. So what is VNet, that we will discuss in the future topics. And because I told you the Bastion will be connected to the public network, so there will be one public IP on the Bastion, not on the VMs. VMs does not have any IP right now, but Bastion is going to have a public IP because it will get connect to the public network on behalf of the VMs. So we can just click on deploy Bastion, and you can see the pricing will be on hourly basis. So you can learn more about it. So just click on deploy Bastion, and now you can see in the procedure, it is adding a subnet with the name of this. So Azure Bastion subnet is going to be added, and if the same thing you would have done manually, so you have to configure all the things. Otherwise, now the process has begun, so we have to wait for few minutes. Like generally the process is going to take between 10 to 15 minutes, so we have to wait till that time. I am not going to pause the video, or I am not going to perform any editing at this point. So let's wait and let's see how much time it is going to take. So it will be 10 to 15 minutes. Let's be on the call and let's understand how does it work. So now we can see the Bastion has been successfully deployed. So if you just see, it took around 8 minutes to complete the Bastion setup. Now it has been completely deployed. And you can see in the provisioning state, it is showing as succeeded. And you can see some options have come here. And if I just go to the Bastion directly, if I search about the Bastion here, so you will notice now there is one service with the name of Bastion. So if you just open this, so you will see it is connected to this particular network, and you can see this is the name of the subnet. So this will always be the name of the Bastion subnet. It is always created with the name of Azure Bastion subnet. And if you would have gone with the manual provisioning, so you have to enter these details manually over there. And on the left side, if you just go to the settings, so under the session you will see how much connection or how many connections are there. So right now we don't have any connection, so it will not show you anything. And in terms of configuration, you can see these are the configuration details over here. So these are the SKU. We have three SKU: basic, standard, and premium, as I told you. So if you want to know about the theoretical part of it, so you can just go with the official document here and you can just see the comparison. See, these three are the comparison here, but initially you don't have to know much details about it. But if you would like to have some of the detail, so you can just refer this one. This one is okay, and this is okay, and scaling part is okay, and the shareable link. So these three are one of the major thing that I would say. Otherwise, yes, all the options are very much important. Now, if you just look at the properties, so these are the properties where it is deployed, what is the resource ID and everything. Now let me show you how the connection happens using the Bastion. So if I just go to my virtual machine, so this is my VM, and if I want to take the remote of it, so there is no public IP on it. It is just running with the help of private IP. And if I just go to the Bastion on the left side under the connect, so if you just click on this, you can see there are two protocols option, RDP and SSH. So if it is Windows, you have to choose the RDP. If it is Linux operating system, you have to choose the SSH. In my case, it is RDP, so I will choose RDP option for the Windows. Port number will be 3389 for the remote. So you can see this is the interface. This is the platform of Bastion, and we have to provide the port detail only, and we have to connect using the password. Then it will take us to the browser screen and we will get the remote. So you can choose the keyboard language, and in the authentication type, it will be VM password. And here we have to enter the username and password of the virtual machine. So I will enter the password and the username of admin account that I created. Then we can simply click on connect button and it will take me to another page. So it is saying a pop-up is blocking. So in case any pop-up blocker message is coming, so you have to just enable it. So you can just go and you can just enable. So once it is enabled, now let me again click on connect button, and now you can see it is taking me to another tab and it will initiate the connection now. See, it is in the process. And now you can see we have the remote screen on the browser. This is how the Bastion works. So we have not taken the direct remote access of the server. This is on the screen of the Bastion. And you can see in the URL itself, it is in HTTPS, and BST basically means Bastion. This is one of the session ID, and these are the encryption details. So these all are the client encryption details. How does it secure? And if you just go to the Azure portal now, and if you search for the Bastion, if you go here, just open, and here under the sessions, you can see the session will get loaded now. So it will take some time, and now you can see the same session ID has been loaded here. So VM01 is connected now, and this is the private IP of the VMC. It is connected via private IP, not via public IP. So we are getting the interface through the Bastion screen, not directly with the VM. If you will create again the same virtual machine in this network, so you would be able to use the same bastion to take the remote of it. So multiple virtual machines can be the part of same bastion host for the remote access. So this is how it works. Hope you understood the topic. In case there will be any doubts, you can still reach out to me. So we can now wrap up this call. So thank you very much for your timing. See you in the next session. Bye.